Alright, ballers! No, I'm just kidding. I'm not Preach, but I am Nemesis Nova. And today I'm going to be doing a guide on the Blood DK. Now this video is probably going to be a little long, so I'm going to put the sections of everything I'm going to talk about in this video so you guys can skip around if needed. Without further ado, or any more awkward dancing, let's get to it. First things first, this is a guide for the Blood DK, which means it is the tanking spec of the DK. So, if you're not interested, you're not interested. But if you want to stick around and find out some cool stuff so you can complain when a tank doesn't do something right, then by all means stick around. Alright guys, so next we're going to talk about talents. For our first tier talents, we have Plague Breaker, Plague Leech, and Unholy Blight. Now, these three talents are pretty good, or at least Plague Breaker and Plague Leech are pretty good. Unholy Blight for Blood DK is not at all good, at all. Anyways, as you can see, my choice is Plague Leech. Now my reasoning behind this is, although Plague Breaker does increase the duration of your diseases, with Plague Leech you can literally use Outbreak to put your diseases on at the very beginning, then in the middle of the fight use Plague Leech in case you need to pop off something like a Death Strike or something in the middle of the fight, and turn right around and use Outbreak and your diseases are right back on the target. I'll go into further detail about our attacks and rotation, but for now, let's continue looking at our talent tiers. Next is your tier 2 talent. In this tier 2, you have Lichborn, Anti-Magic Shield, and Purgatory. Lichborn gives you a nice little 10% leech, and Anti-Magic Shield, or Anti-Magic Zone, pretty much speaks for itself. But Purgatory is going to be your primary choice in this tier talent, just because it's basically a cheat death for Death Knights. Now for your tier 3 talents, you have Death's Advance, Chillbane, and what seems to be like a Dark Vader choke. Obviously my choice was Death's Advance, just due to the fact that Chillbane is pretty much useless on a PvE situation, and your Death Vader choke, unless you're role-playing on an RP server, isn't very viable at all. Next we're going to talk about tier 4 talents. We're going to have Blood Tap, Runic Empowerment, and Runic Corruption. While Runic Power and Runic Corruption are pretty cool, Blood Tap is going to be your optimal choice. My reasoning behind it is with you using Death Coil as much as you will during the rotation, which of course I'll explain later, you'll generate a lot of blood charges, giving you a lot of chances to use it just in case you need it during a fight. Next we're going to be talking about our tier 5 talents. This tier includes Death Pack, Death Siphon, and Conversion. Now while in beta, Conversion was extremely overpowered, giving you 5% health, and just the way that it works was just ridiculous. Now in live servers when 6.0 dropped, Death Pack is going to be your optimal choice in this talent tier. Next is going to be your tier 6. This tier includes Gorfine's Grasp, Remorseless Winter, and Desecrated Ground. Now Remorseless Winter and Desecrated Ground just aren't any competition compared to Gorfine's Grasp. Generally overall this tier isn't that great for PvE, but since you do actually have to choose one, Gorfine's Grasp is going to be your optimal choice. I like to use Gorfine's Grasp in combination with Death Grasp, but I'll talk about that more when we get to the rotation. Next, we have our final tier, our level 100 tier, and that's going to include Necrotic Plague, Defile, and Breath of Syndragosa. Now, I choose Necrotic Plague just because it's a really strong passive ability, but Defile is also strong. It just really scares me. And you may be asking, what are you so afraid of? Well, the thing about Defile is that if there are enemies standing inside of it, it spreads. Yes, it grows in attack, but it also grows in radius, which means you could inadvertently pull something you weren't supposed to, or didn't want to. Alright guys, so next I'm going to talk about glyphs. For my major glyphs, I went with Glyph of Outbreak, Glyph of Death Coil, and Glyph of Vampiric Blood. Now for the moment, I left my minor glyphs blank. But if I had to suggest at least one minor glyph, I would definitely suggest Army of the Dead. It helps keep your aggro under control, and it doesn't make the boss or whatever you're trying to tank go crazy. Next, I'm going to talk about gymming. While gymming isn't really a big part of the game right now, it's still kind of important for future gear. But when future gear comes out and there's more gym slots, I would suggest going towards Mastery Steel, but also throwing in some versatility and maybe some stamina. Alright guys, so next we're going to be talking about our rotation and our offensive and defensive cooldowns. But your rotation is going to be pretty simple. First you want to make sure that your Horn of Winter is active. Then you want to make sure that your Bone Shield is up. Bone Shield reduces your damage by 20%. And then of course after checking that your healer has mana. Now your rotation is pretty simple. I like to start out with a Death Strike and quickly follow it up with an Outbreak, just to get my diseases on the target early. Then I'll use a blood boil, because using blood boil also spreads your diseases to targets within a certain amount of radius. Then, if there are more than one target, I'll usually throw down a death and decay and throw down some more blood boils and death strikes whenever I need it. Make sure that you're watching your health and you're watching your healer's mana. You need to know when to use defensive cooldowns. Speaking of defensive cooldowns, let's talk about those next. Your main defensive cooldowns are going to be Iceborne Fortitude, which reduces your damage by 50% for 8 seconds. Runic Tap, which consumes 1 runic power to reduce all damage by 40%, and any trinket you have, and also including Anti-Magic Shield, which reduces magic damage by 75%. Well guys, that's about it. Blood DKs are a really fun tanking class and by far my favorite. If I missed anything or you have any questions about anything in the video today, or whenever you watch this, please comment in the section below. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you guys have.